Sie hören Sport und Musik.
Das Spiel ist aus! Deutschland ist Weltmeister!
In a world where fans fight over whether to call it football, or soccer, two German men defy the odds and call it Fußball. Bringing you inside the German-American Fußball experience. And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
Woo! There we go. Hey, welcome to the Schnitzel Boys podcast. I did a little tech thing. I still can't figure it out, so I played a little thing off my phone. Hope that went okay. If it's a little lame this week, I apologize. So this week, I'm flying solo almost because I am Stefan Schnitzel and I am hosting this week. But Bjorn, hey, wait a minute. You're not Bjorn. You're not Bjorn Schnitzel. I got a guest co-host this week. I got a guest of the podcast. My friend, my co-host Bjorn Schnitzel is off skiing off in the Alps somewhere like a German does. He's not going to be around until Wednesday. So I figured let's change it up this week. I got my new guest co-host here, Ryan. Ryan, give yourself a round of applause. Hello, Ryan.
Glad to be joining the show.
How you feeling, bud?
I'm feeling good. Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. How many podcasts have you been in before on your life?
This will be the first.
Hey-o, Ryan's first podcast appearance. So typical crazy me. I go out in the world. I like to yes and life. I like to go and seize the day. So, Ryan, would you like to tell the audience where you and me met?
Yeah, so we were at I was going on a 2-year delayed trip with my wife from COVID. And I have a friend who lives in London, and he bought us tickets to the Arsenal Leeds match. But because he waited longer to buy the tickets, me, him, and my wife were all in 3 different areas of the stadium. And so I was sitting there watching the match, and Stefan was sitting beside me, and we got to talking and just hit it off real quick. And by halftime, Stefan and my wife had switched places.
Yeah, I'm a nice guy. So I was sitting there watching Arsenal Leeds. I got up at 3:30 in the morning, and I got one ticket for that game. I bought the membership. You have to be a member. And then when that game was available, I went online, and it kept being I have to keep emptying my cart because it kept being sold out. So finally, I was able to randomly, through some miracle, 20 minutes later, a ticket was available. I put it in my cart. I bought it. I got a single. It's hard to get tickets for an English Premier League game. And I went to the stadium, and sitting to my left was a fellow American also visiting London and checked out. Essentially, it was like, and then a guy to my right was this nice dude from Glasgow, and his girlfriend bought him a ticket to the game for his birthday, and they flew down from Scotland just for the game. And for all 3 of us, I think, unless I'm wrong, that was our first game at Arsenal, right? Have you ever been there before?
No, that was my first time. That was my first European and Premier League matchup.
Me too. That was my first Premier League game. I was lucky to have gone to a La Liga game once upon a time. But yeah, so I'm like, oh, this is like the American guest section of the Arsenal Leeds. I also wanted to go to that game. I was in London visiting my sister. She lives in North London. And Leeds was in town with a newly minted Jesse March, my former coach of the New York Red Bulls, coaching the English Premier League. So I wanted to go. I wanted to see it. And it was a good game. It was 2-2, right? Was it one of those? I forgot.
2-1. 2-1 Arsenal.
Oh, 2-1. But the reason it was silly is because both the Arsenal goals were just silly mistakes. Yep. Like, or at least one of them. It was they could have gotten a point out of that game. I thought it was a little silly of how they were able to lose that game. But it was a fun experience. And then I'm just like, mate, I got a podcast. Email me. We're 2 American boys watching soccer in Europe. Let's connect. So this week, as I need to guest the podcast, I'm like, I need to talk Ryan because in addition to your love for European soccer, English soccer specifically, what is your main go-to? Tell the audience. What do you do?
Nashville Soccer Club.
At Nashville SC, you're a season ticket holder, right?
That's correct. I've been a season ticket holder since the first season in the USL days back in 2017.
Oh wow! From the minor league days as well.
Yep.
So remind me with Nashville, and I thought this was a great opportunity for us to get a little focus on some other clubs, because with my lovely co-host Bjorn, it's usually the NYCFC hour here. Every week we talk NYCFC, which is fine. But as I mentioned before, we have quite the bias. So I want to switch it up a little bit. I love to talk more other clubs. I love to focus on Nashville SC. So when Nashville SC was in the USL, was it like a prescribed, like was that just them getting their feet wet before they went to MLS? Or were they a USL team independent of getting the MLS bid?
So they were, no, that was prescribed for them going to MLS. So
it was part of the deal. They were just getting USL going and then getting ready for MLS. Okay.
Yeah, they were two seasons in USL, and Gary Smith was the coach from season 1 of USL.
Right. And Gary Smith is such an interesting choice. I remember when he coached Colorado Rapids and they won the MLS Cup. And it was a little bit of a fluky year. I don't know if you followed the league at that time. But Colorado kind of snuck in there towards the end and won the Cup. So he was a Cup-winning coach. But it was very much a year where it's like, okay, good job, Colorado. Well, you had a good playoffs. And they weren't necessarily dominant of the league that year. And he speaking of Arsenal, he was a one-time Arsenal scout back in the day. I think before he worked at Colorado, he worked for Arsenal's scouting department. And then after that, though, after his time in Colorado, he kind of fussed around for a bit. And he coached the minor league soccer. What were his gigs before Nashville? I think it was pretty relative. I should look this up.
I want to say he coached somewhere at like Stevenage.
Yeah, that's ringing a bell too. Like somewhere very, very minor league.
Yeah, over in England, and he was at the Atlanta. I can't remember their exact name. It was Atlanta something. They were in the
you're right. Stevenage, Atlanta, the Atlanta Silverbacks, the old Atlanta minor league team, and then from there Nashville SC. And I think he's. How do you feel about him and his work at Nashville SC?
He's done a pretty good job, but I feel like this year they're going kind of stale.
Right.
I just don't. I think they've kind of hit their ceiling. I don't know that there's any more that he can get out of the group. But again, not all of it is on Gary. Some of it's the player acquisitions. There's just a lot of different things that are going wrong.
Sure. I think a lot of MLS clubs share your spirit. Let's go into it. So let's just get started small and work our way big. So Nashville played Minnesota United last night. You were at the game, right?
Correct. Yep.
And it was 2-1. Did Minnesota get I should have, unfortunately, I saw the highlights. Didn't Minnesota get a last-minute winner right there in the death? Or give me a little play-by-play.
It was about 10 minutes left in the game.
Gotcha.
So Nashville, a couple of weeks ago, acquired Shaq Moore from Tenerife, who's fighting for a spot as a backup right back for the USMNT.
Right.
Their last goal happened because he was a little too aggressive on Reynoso for Minnesota, and he stepped around him, played a guy that was running down the left flank, and he crossed the ball across the 6-yard box. And Nashville had just subbed off Alex Muyl, a former New York Red Bull.
That's right. I know him well. One of ours.
Luke Hawkinson did not track the runner. That's who was subbed on for Muyl. And, the guy was there at the back post to tap it in.
That was the kiss of death. This was in Nashville, right? Yeah, they had Nashville hosted.
Yeah, they've played 12 home games, and they've won 3. That's
not good. That's a bad home record.
Nope.
It's bad. Is Nashville in a playoff spot? Aren't they teetering? Where are they at right now? Let me look up.
They're currently 7th, but they're
right there on the edge, right? Yeah.
But on most teams that are below the playoff line, they're either a game or 2. Like their games played.
LA Galaxy has 2 games in hand, and they're tied on points. Real Salt Lake has a game in hand, a few points up. But they're tied on points and matches played with Portland. And you're right, Seattle does have a game in hand on them, but they're only 1 point down. Seattle also having themselves a rough little season. San Jose and
Colorado's around there, right?
Colorado is 10th right after that. And Colorado is having themselves a little bit of a resurgence in the second half of the season. As the New York Red Bulls, we figured that out the hard way. They've been on quite a bit of a run, those Colorado's little efforts. But we are also entering the part of the season. There's about 10 games left, and most teams are ready to go. Like teams that you sort of wrote off, kind of like a Colorado, are coming back with a vengeance. And same over in the East, Chicago and Toronto are turning it on. They're like going for a late season push. So there are certain clubs. It's going to be interesting who makes the final 7. I would say there are 2 or 3 clubs per conference you can successfully write off. And I think 2 were mathematically eliminated from being Supporters' Shield's winners over the weekend. Anyway, I don't know what's going to happen with a Sporting KC or a San Jose or a Houston or even a Vancouver. But I'd be very surprised if they were to make it in. And on the Eastern Conference, same thing, DC and Atlanta. Oh, talk about how the mighty have fallen.
That payroll to be where they're at.
Ratio, yeah. And Charlotte, Charlotte came a lot of fanfare, but I was very critical of how they were doing things. I think for all intents and purposes, they had a pretty good season. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. It's looking like they'll be on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
But they weren't as much of a dumpster fire as I thought they would be. But let's go back to Nashville SC for a bit. And then I want to talk about something a little bit bigger that you can help me out with. So you had Shaq Moore, Walker Zimmerman, who had a little bit of a blunder last night, didn't he, if I'm not mistaken?
He did. He was the culprit for the first goal. He tried a cute little chip pass right up the middle of the field, and Minnesota, I think, has a 6'4" Honduran that plays in the midfield, and I think he's the one that intercepted the pass, and they hit him on the counter. His distribution the past month or so has been pretty spotty.
Interesting. So as we keep an eye on our World Cup players, Walker Zipman, who has spent the last year turning himself into our number 1 center back. He's like the first on the team sheet, which is such a great turnaround for him, because that started when he was an alternate called in to replace someone who dropped out. And he's just been rock solid. But coming up here to the World Cup and to the playoffs, maybe he's got a couple blunders in him. Same with Aaron Long. Defenders aren't machines; they're human beings. They got mistakes. But you want to see as little as possible with their form going into the World Cup. So that's crazy that Walker Zimmerman had that little lapse in judgment last night. But thank God you do it now. It doesn't kill you; makes you stronger. What kind of choices have they made this season that have not panned out?
They've been all over the place. Gary's kind of been all over the place with some of the formations. Like sometimes they played a 3-5-2 with 3 center backs, and they were playing wing backs before they got Shaq Moore. They were playing Eric Miller, Alex Muyl at the right wing back.
Interesting.
Which they actually have played better when they were playing that formation. And since they've got Shaq Moore, they've been playing a back 4, which is a little – I'm having a little trouble understanding that, because I'm like, Shaq Moore is more of a wing back, not a straight fullback.
Right.
But they've reverted back to a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-1-2 mainly.
Well, I was going to say the old Christmas tree, but they have 2 forwards up top. Is Hani Mukhtar the one? He's the one, right?
Hani Mukhtar and Sapong.
Sapong, they're up top.
Yeah.
And how's CJ Sapong doing this year? I think last year he was a candidate to be on the national team, because as we keep looking for number 9s, CJ Sapong was very quietly scoring those goals last year, just one after another.
I was going to say CJ Sapong has kind of reverted back to what he's been most of his MLS career, just kind of an average forward. I don't think he's scored since May.
Oh, really? Yeah, and at 33 is not getting any younger. So, but like you said, players underperform, but maybe, it's not like the roster is very similar this year to where they were last year, right?
Yeah, it's very similar. I think they just I think part of it, Joe Willis has dropped off in goal.
Goalkeeper. Right. So it's just you said it's getting stale. I mean, I hate to say it, maybe it's to freshen up. Because last year, you guys had a great season. You guys were candidates for Supporter Shield. Didn't you guys win the Eastern Conference or almost win the Eastern Conference in standings?
They finished third, but
third. But still, very strong season. Hani Mukhtar was on fire. I mean, he was league MVP, at least candidate for it. How's Hani Mukhtar been this year?
He's been fantastic. I think he's currently at 14 goals. So he's right near the MLS leader in goals. I mean, he is basically Nashville's only chance to score from the run of play. I mean, that's one thing I'm not sure about Gary when it comes to his offensive strategy. To me, it's just like hopefully Mukhtar can create some magic, or we're either going to cross the ball into the box 30 times a game.
Right, and hopefully it hits someone, right?
Yeah.
It's hits a CJ Spong or Walker Zimmerman if he's in there in an offensive capacity. Yeah, I mean, Hani Mukhtar has been just quite the revelation. He had a pretty obscure path beforehand. There's a lot of great players, a lot of German players too, coming in the league that people are just finding somewhere. You know, St. Louis SC has a couple people showed up like Edvard Löwen and things like that. And I'm very curious how they'll do. Guys like Kai Wagner, who's now linked to Leeds.
Yep.
Fabian Herbers, Julian Wessel, a lot of these great obscure German players coming in doing a really good job in the league. And Hani Mukhtar, I think they got him from Denmark, right? Is that where they picked him up? I'm trying to look up this thing.
Yes, Brøndby.
They go from Brøndby, which is a big Danish club, featuring an American right now named Christian Kappes, I believe his name is right. But I think he was part of the Hertha, maybe academy. Yeah, he's from Berlin. He was part of the Hertha Academy. Went to Benfica, Red Bull Salzburg. Can't believe we didn't pick him up in New York. Then Brøndby, and then in Nashville, a German youth international. So the dude had a lot of promise, but he never made it as a senior player quite so well in Germany. And now he's just crushed it in his prime here in Nashville. So Nashville gets the best and brightest out of this young man.
And he just signed a new contract a couple months ago.
Excellent. Now he's the kind of DP that's worth real money. I would say more so than a Lorenzo Insigne is what I would say.
So that's another problem with Nashville. Everybody knows MLS. You get 3 designated players. Obviously, Hani Mukhtar has been a smash hit. They just gave Walker Zimmerman a DP contract, which that's pretty uncommon in MLS to give a center back a DP contract.
Right.
And then their third DP is Ake Loba, who's been here for about a year now. Nashville got him from Monterey last summer, and he has been a disaster at best.
Right. That's an MLS tradition, the disaster DP. For every successful DP, there's always a disaster DP.
So
from the Ivory Coast, he's a forward. He's scored 1 goal in 33 appearances. It doesn't have much of a scoring record in general. He scored 9 goals for Querétaro. He scored 6 goals for Monterey. That's not for a forward. That's not a bevy of goals.
No, I know Nashville really wanted him when he was with Querétaro, but they weren't going to outbid Monterey.
So it's been a while. I guess they got him when he wasn't, the iron wasn't struck as hot. So that's an example of a negative acquisition, right? As a New York Red Bulls fan, cry me a river. We get obscure players all the time, and they're really expensive, and we never see them. And they can barely cut it in USL too, but we pay them $2 million, and then they leave after 6 months. Patrick Klimala. I mean, we had a guy named Fredrickson, I think his name was. He was supposed to be our big DP. He was on a huge contract. He couldn't even cut it in the major league. He could barely cut it in USL. We got all sorts of those guys. Yeah, Klimala can't buy a goal. He's tried. We just brought in some obscure number 9 from Brazil, Alois Manuel, and then I think we just signed Tyler Pasher, a Canadian dude. So we're like, I don't know.
He's been cut from multiple MLS teams.
Well, or maybe he'll be our savior guiding light. Maybe he'll score 30 goals, Tyler Pasher. I'm rooting for you, bud. Whoever you are, You journeyman, I hope you do well for us because we're just finding players in the scrap bin is where we find our players from. We have one of the lowest payrolls. We also only have 15 senior players on our roster. We by far have the least senior players on any MLS team roster.
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of kids. So we have a great academy. I love our kids. But you need to match them with some adults, too. And that we're a little low on. That we're a little light on these days. But this is – I don't want to talk depressing New York Red Bulls. I don't want to talk how they lost 1-0 to Orlando City over the weekend at home, the team that defeated them, destroyed them in the Open Cup not a week or two prior.
5-1 or something?
Something like that. Yeah, 5-1. And wait a minute. Remind me, wasn't Nashville eliminated also from the Open Cup recently?
Orlando City.
So Orlando knocked you out and then knocked us out. Oh, Orlando knocked both of us out in a freight train. Well, let's hope Orlando crashes and burns in the U.S. Open Cup final. Let's hope the Sacramento Republic gets a nice title because I like it when soccer teams have a great support, get some great success. But all in all, you're feeling a little mixed on Nashville this year. I say you still got Hani Mukhtar, the playoffs where people light it up. But Walker Zimmerman on DP money is very interesting because I do think he's worth it. And Aaron Long wants that same money. And Aaron Long is also worth it. But I don't think my club is interested in paying it. So he's probably going to make his way off somewhere, unfortunately.
I think Aaron Long would fit in well with the Galaxy could use him.
Yeah. You know where our players tend to go? Nashville SC. We had Alex Buell, Dax McCarty. I want to say there was another example in there. I'm forgetting.
Sean Davis.
Sean Davis, thank you. Where is he on the roster still?
He's in every game. He is an every game starter, and he's been average.
Well, he was one of those up and comers for us, and I guess he was good for us. I don't think he was bad. But when you get the captain's armbag on the New York Red Bulls, that means that's your final season because you go. We lost Luis Robles. We lost Dax McCarty. We lost Sasha Kleshin. We lost Sean Davis. I just know it was never a captain, but we lost from Nashville. And now Aaron Long is wearing the captain's armbag loud and proud. And that means he's going to go bye-bye. We're not going to see him after this season. God knows where he's going to end up. Maybe Nashville. Maybe to partner up with Walker. I would love to see him in the Galaxy. Maybe in the championship. Who knows? But
as long as Nashville doesn't pay him a DP contract.
Well, that's what I want. As a New York Red Bulls fan, I'm like, pay the man. I think of players, especially American players that play in this league, I think if they play well and play hard and do their thing, they deserve to get paid. They deserve to earn a contract. They deserve to earn some sort of a salary. Don't sign them $2 million a year right out of college. But if they've been playing for years, they're career players and they're part of the starters at the World Cup, pay them $2 million. Lorenzo Insigne's getting $15 million. Who's he? Pay our players $2 million. Hani Mukhtar should get $2 or $3 million, whatever he's getting. They deserve players that earn it here in the league should get money. I think this is maybe a separate soapbox. Players get paid by their foreign value a lot. So a lot of big players from Europe come in at big prices. But more times than not, or maybe at least half the times, that means squat here, and it shows. Again, New York Red Bulls, we had Rafa Marquez come at $5 million a year. He's one of the worst players in Red Bulls history.
I remember that coming from Barcelona.
He was gross. Yeah, he would just tackle players. He'd hate the league. He'd be injured. He didn't want to be here. He was just collecting a check. Whereas we had a guy at the same time named Marcus Holgerson, who was a Swedish journeyman player, who wasn't great at first but earned his stripes. He was making $300K a year, and they had to cut him for quote-unquote cap room. They always have to cut players for cap room. And it's like, I just want to be somewhere where a guy like Marcus Holgerson can get paid because he's actually performing for us. And a guy like Rafa Marquez can go off and earn his money somewhere else. He's not doing it here, But that's a story for another time. I just feel that MLS players that earn their stripes, they deserve to get paid, Garber. You listen to us, give them money. They deserve it.
I think Zimmerman makes around $2.5 million. I think on his new contract.
Yeah, and I think a guy like that's worth it. I mean, I know it's a lot of money, but it's like that's what defenders. I mean, if he went to England, he'd get at least twice that, maybe even 3 times that, no problemo.
Easily, yeah.
So he's staying here. Well, anyway, so you're feeling the same angst of MLS fans, but I just want to say, I moved to North Carolina in 2002 when I was a soccer fan there. And it was the whole South, the United States, but especially the South, was such a wasteland when it came to professional soccer, There were a couple of minor league teams. There was a team, we had the Raleigh Castle Elite, which essentially became what's kind of FC these days. But there was just nothing going. There was maybe one MLS game a week on ESPN2 if you could find it. And as the league kept growing and growing, they contracted 2 teams. Both the teams were in the Florida, which is the only presence in the South they ever had. The nearest team was always DC United. But Washington, D.C. ain't the South. We don't know anything about D.C. United. So all of a sudden, Atlanta showed up, and they showed up big and loud and proud. Orlando, too. Florida isn't really the South. I mean, it is the South. I don't know what your opinions about Florida being part of the South are. They are the South, definitely. Especially the Panhandle. But Florida very much is its own line. Florida's like Florida. So technically, Orlando and Miami are the South, kind of, but they're Florida. As far as the real South, we're thinking like, in Texas, it's also its own thing. But anyway, Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville. So Atlanta came up, they came strong. The Nashville said, "Oh yeah, hold my beer." They came strong, and Nashville hosted that USA Canada qualifier. I believe. Were you at that game?
I was at that game.
I had a bunch of friends at that game, and it was just a crazy atmosphere. And then Charlotte came, so they hold my beer. And then Charlotte this year came in their football stadium. They packed that. They got big crowds. I'm loving it. The fact that soccer is doing so well in the Deep South is such a cool thing. Would you have ever imagined when you were younger that you would have been a big soccer fan when you were an adult or growing up?
No, I mean, I played soccer from the age of 4 up to 18. And yeah, I would have never imagined Nashville or Atlanta, Charlotte, any of those, cities in the quote unquote Deep South ever getting a professional soccer team. I mean, I watched MLS when I was that age, but it was like you said, oh, you might get a LA Galaxy match on ESPN, but then David Beckham comes to the league and it gets a little more high profile. And then Thierry Henry comes to the Red Bulls a few years later. And it's just kind of grown, and it's expanded on.
He came along with the great Rafa Marquez. I just remember, as I lived in Raleigh, North Carolina during those years, and I would go to Dick's Sporting Goods because the commercial said they sold jerseys there. But no, there were no MLS jerseys at my Dick's Sporting Goods, not in North Carolina. And then when Beckham showed up, I went back, and you can get a Beckham shirt. Like, oh, you want the Beckham shirt? Like, the Beckham shirt was the thing you can get. Because the Beckham shirt, number 23, LA Galaxy specifically rebranded to make themselves look more like Real Madrid. They used to be yellow and green. But when David Beckham showed up, they turned themselves to light the Herbalife on. They made themselves like Real Madrid. And they sold those jerseys like hotcakes. And Dick's Sporting Goods, like in Raleigh, North Carolina, you couldn't get a Ben Olsen jersey, but you could definitely get a David Beckham jersey. And now that's like, forget it. Any store, you can get whatever jersey you want. Barcelona, Real Madrid, Manchester United, that stuff's around. You see jerseys around. Kids are playing. I'm loving it. I'm loving how popular it is. What got you into? You were an MLS fan before Nashville. Tell us the journey. Like, what got you? I know you're also a fan of the English game and stuff. Like, how did you find the sport? What's your fan origin story? Right?
So I grew up in Nashville, where I still currently live, and I just grew up playing soccer. Just fell in love playing with it. I remember when I was, I think, about 11 or 12 years old, watching, staying up, waking real up early in the morning in the 2002 World Cup. Pretty much the Dos a Cero match, USA versus Mexico.
Yeah. Brad McBride and Landon Donovan, I think, each got the score sheet, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And the 2006 World Cup, I was hyped for that, and it ended in utter disappointment.
Yeah. But never forget the U.S.-Italy game. That was a good game.
No, that was
really
a wild match. And then the
disappointment. Ghana game was very disappointing. We should have. And you know what, Claudio? I'll never forget. Claudio Reyna was kind of a disappointment in that match. When Ghana scored that goal there, he fell over and kind of died a little bit. And it's like, get on your feet, play the game, and they got us there. It was a little unlucky, maybe. The penalty was a little poopy, But at the end of the day, we should have done better with Ghana. And then they became our bogey team 4 years later.
2010, yep.
I remember being at the bar being like, revenge. I remember Landon Donovan scored the penalty. But it's like, no revenge. Ghana got a number twice. They got eliminated us twice.
I think Asamoah Gyan scored.
In overtime.
Yep. So
against Tim Howard, I think so, right? Or am I wrong?
no, you're right.
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, just watching those World Cup matches and growing up watching the Premier League, you know, became a Manchester United fan through watching Ronaldo and Rooney and Van der Sar, Vidic, Neville.
This is Fox Sports World, right? We're talking Fox Sports World here. Yeah. The old premium cable channel that had English soccer. Fox Sports World.
Didier Drogba was at Chelsea, Van Persie at Arsenal. All the classic players.
Michael Ballack was at Chelsea at the time, I believe.
Yeah.
A lot of those were the good. That's kind of got me into English soccer too. Were those? Was just Fox Sports World and all this stuff was happening. The English game has done such a good job becoming this global all-star league for everyone to watch and have a good time with. And I love watching the Americans go in and out. No, that's a cool story, man. And then, how excited were you when Nashville had a professional soccer team you can call your own?
Oh, I was so excited. I had heard the rumors, but it looked unlikely. They had talked about Sacramento, St. Louis, but I think Nashville just put up. It's still the kind of the growing city. And I think the proposal they put forward, I think blew Don Garber and MLS out of the water. And I mean they've been a success. Made the playoffs.
If you're like me, you remember the old expansion stories of where like MLS granted a team to Cleveland once upon a time, but that got canceled. And then there was this round of this expansion round where Atlanta and Salt Lake City and a bunch of teams were pitching, and the league was like, "Oh, we have 6 bids. We'll see who wins." And the people who won were the 2 people that ended up having their checks cleared. Atlanta was never real. That was just, which is so funny how great they became later. That no one took that seriously, and that was the year that Real Salt Lake and Chivas USA came in the league. The great Chivas USA.
Yeah.
and they're Bakers. That's a whole documentary worth in and of itself. Chivas USA from beginning to end. I want to see that documentary. I remember when they came in the league, it was ChivasNuevaSangre.com, which is ChivasNewBlood.com. In order to play for that club, you had to be Mexican or Mexican American, which is a bonkers regulation. And also, which we found quite illegal in this country because of racial discrimination laws and employee laws.
Yeah.
So they dropped all that, and the only good years they ever had were under Bob Bradley and Sasha Kleshin and Ante Razov and all those guys. And there was nothing Mexican about them. They were just the other LA team. And then El Chelis came in. They had no crowd. And all of a sudden, after all the lawsuits, they died a slow death. And that's what MLS expansion used to. And then the other team was Real Salt Lake, which is a great team in and of themselves. But nowadays, the guys in New York are probably hitting their heads on the table with all those small town clubs, San Jose, Salt Lake, Columbus. They're trying to get rid of them. Which I disagree with, by the way. I think there's a place for small town clubs.
Yeah, Columbus almost moved to Austin a few years ago.
Right, and then when they stayed, they almost got rebranded again. And the fans are like, leave our club alone. Come on. I was a fan of the old San Jose Earthquakes with Landon Donovan. We talked about how much we love Landon Donovan. And Landon Donovan was crush it. I remember those old teams with Troy Dyack and Ronnie Eklund. And honestly, probably Chris Wondolowski was on those teams, dude's agent. Yeah. But I remember their last 2 seasons were so depressing. They couldn't get an investor. They couldn't get an owner. They just picked up and relocated to Houston, and which started their great franchise down there in Houston, which has seen better days, the early days. They won in 06 and 07 under Don Kinnear and things like that. And the new San Jose Earthquakes, I'm glad they're there. I'm glad they're back. But I just remember the old San Jose Earthquakes from 2003. That was probably one of my favorite MLS teams. And I still remember that final like it was yesterday. The Chicago Fire. It was the Chicago Fire with DeMarcus Beasley versus Landon Donovan and the San Jose Earthquakes on ABC. It was a great game. I think San Jose won 4-2 or something like that.
Yeah, right. Because not soon after that, Donovan went to Germany, right? And
he went to Bayer Leverkusen. I think maybe right after that final. And he was there for 2 months. I remember he played Liverpool in the Champions League, and he was mad because he got subbed off 10 minutes in the second half or something. He just wanted to come back home. So then LA Galaxy bought him, and he was a Galaxy star, and the rest is history. He's a Galaxy star forever. And DeMarcus Beasley, though, he went to PSV after that, and he stayed in Europe, put a long European journey.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Chicago Fire has seen better days too.
Yeah, they've had a little resurgence here, but yeah, they're better this year than they were last year. But
I'm a fan of Chicago. I wish the best. Their fans have been through enough. And I love the fact that they're finally getting some points, and I would love to see them in the playoffs this year. So, Chicago, my heart out goes to you, my friend. But I just think it's great. So you were a Ronin, samurai without a master, and finally get a club to call your own. Tell us what the Nashville fan culture is like. What's it like in the supporters section? Tell us about the Nashville SC culture.
So we have the Geodis Park. It's the largest soccer-specific stadium in the U.S.
Oh wow! That happened. That opened a month ago, right? Or a couple weeks ago.
It actually opened in May.
Oh, in May, got it. With what's her face? Legally Blonde in attendance.
Yep.
What's her name again? Reese Witherspoon, one of your many celebrity owners, which is so funny to me.
Yeah, so Nashville CEO is Ian R., who was currently at used to be at Liverpool. He brought like Firmino. I believe he brought in Salah. So I think that's where some of I don't expect Nashville to sign Salah or Firmino or guys of that nature, but I think that's some of the disappointment in some of Nashville's player recruitment is, when they came on the scene, they were talking about we're going to be the top 1/3, when it comes to the payroll. Well, you look at it, they're in the bottom 1/3.
Right. Yeah, that's always a lot of times they want to splash cash at the beginning and then that fades. But both of your teams have had our periods with big stars, but both of our teams are just made up of obscure players they find and scout, things like that, which is whatever.
As far as the stadium experience, like it's fantastic. Like, I mean, it's like any soccer specific stadium. You're right on top of the field, chanting, supporter section on your feet, cheering the whole game.
How much is beer? How much is the beer? We're talking here.
It's expensive.
Yeah, $13. We're talking here. So I'm in LA. Okay, what do we got? $13
to $16.
Oh, it is. Oh, those are New York and LA prices. Shame on you. Shame on you, Nashville.
They are. Yeah.
The whole point of Atlanta is their stuff is cheap, isn't it? I think Atlanta's cheap. Their beers are $4 or $5 or something.
I've been to Atlanta. I've been to Cincinnati. I've been to Portland, Orlando, and DC. And yeah, Nashville's it's more expensive than any of those.
Well, Nashville, you're from Nashville. Nashville's Music City, USA. So they got a very I think they got a very loud and proud tradition of being sort of a big time city. I think, if I'm not mistaken, right? So it's a big time city mentality. So yeah, beers are $13, I guess. That's how much they cost. But that sounds fun. I love it. I love the singing, the dancing. What is the supporters group called? Or how many do you have?
The back line.
Are you part of the back line?
No, I'm not.
I was never really part of any of the ones in New York either. I was just a big fan. I liked them. I hung out with them at the bar and stuff like that. But I don't think I was ever a paying member.
No, I sit like I will say like the supporters are always chanting and cheering, but pretty much like around the other parts of the stadium, after the first few minutes or when they don't just score a goal, like it's a lot of like just casual people there, like, Nashville SC, it's kind of the new thing to do.
Right. So to get out of the house and enjoy the sun and stuff, which is what you need. We need those fans. I mean, your Rebels would love those fans. We don't have those fans. And I was at I'm all over the place here. I was at an Angel City FC game last night, which is an NWSL game. And here in LA, that is a thing. People go, they support it. It's got its own culture. It really blew me away how cool of a thing it was. But go back to Tennessee. Does Nashville have a rivalry with the Memphis club, Tim Howard's Memphis club? What are they called? Memphis 1901 or something like that?
Yeah, no. Memphis is USL. Nashville doesn't really.
They haven't had that U.S. Open Cup game yet, have they?
They have not.
That'll be fun. Like, remember when Cincinnati, like when they were in the USL, when they hosted the Columbus Crew, and that was sort of Cincinnati's kind of coming out party. I think.
Nashville has a rivalry with Cincinnati because they played them for a season when they were in USL before Cincinnati came into the league, and they've had a good little rivalry here.
And you're both the new kids on the block. You both have a fancy new stadiums and stuff. Yep. But I, as a longtime MLS fan, I just want to see teams with great support do well. Because I can't tell you how many, like Atlanta and Toronto and Portland, Seattle, I'm glad their support still goes well. Because I hate seeing a team like Charlotte sell out 75,000 and offer such poor soccer and lose those fans in a short period of time. You know what I mean? I want those fans to come. I want them to stay. So really well-supported clubs. Like it took forever for Toronto to finally get their act together. I love the fact that they did. Because back in the old days, as I'm sure you remember, Toronto was the first club to sort of 2.0. Toronto was the first club to sort of show everyone how it's done. They had a downtown stadium. They filled that stadium. I remember I was in Toronto in 2008 randomly, and there was a game that weekend. You saw jerseys. People were in jerseys. People were talking about the game. It was the first time I saw an MLS club be part of a city, essentially. And Toronto did that first. But they never made the playoffs. For like 7 seasons, they didn't make the playoffs. It was just so sad for me to see them be so well supported, but not bring it on the field. So I love when in Nashville and hopefully Charlotte, and I love when Atlanta. I love when clubs that have great support. And in Cincinnati, I love that they're finally turning it around. They're having a great run.
And Brandon
Vasquez, such a revelation. And Matt Miazga, again, another beautiful New York Red Bull alumni that we do not have, that we will not sign, landed at his feet there. You know, and I love seeing the Cincinnati finally, hopefully, make their way to the playoffs. Knock on wood. Although I'm a fan of my team and want them to do well, I'm also a fan of just American soccer doing well in the country. So I love it when clubs are well supported, go do well. And I do want Nashville to get a title at some point. Those fans deserve it. Even though we've been fans for 26 years, we have no titles. But hey, you guys show up. So I don't want you to turn to what we've turned into, which is just an empty stadium full of a bunch of fans that stopped rooting for the team because they've had enough. Okay, that's a whole other discussion. Speaking of another New York Red Bulls Nashville connection, this is again an obscure MLS time. This is obscure MLS history time with Stefan and Ryan. One of my favorite New York players of all time was a guy named Johnny Walker. Do you remember him?
No.
You know who Johnny Walker is? Johnny Walker, great name by the way, right? He was a goalkeeper, and he was from Nashville, Tennessee. I think he played for University of Tennessee. I think he lives there now. He runs like youth camps or something. But Johnny Walker's claim to fame was he played professionally in Chile for a long time. He was the goalkeeper for Colo-Colo, and Colo-Colo was Chile's biggest club. Mm-hmm. He played for Universidad, something, one of those, and then played for Colo-Colo for a while. He was just this random American from Nashville who was crushed it down in Chile for some reason. I don't think he had any connection there. He just went down there because he was a journeyman. And then when Tim Howard was sold to Manchester United from the New York Metro Stars for $2.3 million back then. And then he went and he played, which is also bonkers. When does that ever happen? Johnny Walker was brought in to be his replacement, and Johnny Walker had the best goalkeeping record that season, and he was a great goalkeeper for us for a few years. So Johnny Walker, my heart out goes to you. You are gone but not forgotten. I don't know what you're up to these days, but you are from Nashville. And that was also one of those things where it's like I didn't even know there was much of a soccer culture in Nashville. So like to have a guy come from Nashville to go play in Chile, I was like, you don't see that every day.
I think it's just really grown here recently. I think just as Nashville grows as a city.
I love Tennessee in general. I love Memphis a lot. I used to go to Memphis all the time. Nashville. I remember I had lunch at the Grand Ole Opry Mall once. Is it a place? Is it a mall there or something? I don't know. Maybe it's not. I think I had lunch at a mall somewhere. I don't think it was near the Grand Ole Opry, probably.
Grand Ole Opry and the Opry Mills Mall.
I think that's where I had lunch. I had lunch at the Upper Mills Mall. That's my only Nashville experience. I had good barbecue at Upper Mills Mall. No, it's very cool, man. Thanks for coming on the pod. Try to think if there's anything else. Let's talk U.S. men's national team maybe for a little bit, right?
I got
a cup coming up. Yeah. Oh, well, you got to go. You got your kids. I got your kids in the background. Let's just do the hot button topics. I'm going to throw some hot fire questions at you to answer. Who's our starting goalkeeper in Qatar? Who's our starting goalkeeper?
Sean Johnson.
Starting with Sean Johnson. I love it. My friend Bjorn would love that take. So Sean Johnson. Is it because he's just in form and he's playing and that's it? No one else
Yes.
is?
All
right.
Stefan, I think Stefan is third. Who do I think will start or who I think should start? I think Zach Stefan will start. I think Sean Johnson should.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that makes more sense. There was an article recently that analyzed Zach Stefan's numbers, and he is beyond mediocre, just in general. He's like, it's like, I know, again, we're going to say Bjorn. Bjorn doesn't even think he should be on the roster. And that dude's just a blunder and a half. And then you look at his numbers, it's like he was never amazing. Like even MLS, he never ranked top 3 on any stats.
He's making blunders net. He's on loan at Middlesbrough.
Right. He's about to get benched there. Although he had a good save over the weekend, a little respect to him, a decent save over the weekend.
I would say if Turner was still at New England, he would be the goalie, but he's going to go sit. He's sitting on the bench at Arsenal, and I want my players. I want them to play.
Right. Yeah, because if you don't use it, you lose it. And I do think Matt Turner is our best shot stopper by far. Yep. And I like Matt Turner a lot. But yeah, how cold is he going to be? We'll see. So you're thinking. So essentially, when you turn on the TV for USA Wales, you're saying you're going to see Zach Stefan minding the net. That's what you're saying.
I will be in the stadium for USA Wales.
Wait a minute, you're going to Qatar?
Yep.
Oh man, we did talk about this. Holy crap, we got to talk about that. How much is your hotel? Did you find housing? How did that work?
So they actually built these apartments/villas strictly for the World Cup, and it was like $80 a night.
Oh really? But you must have got it early, I think, right? Or
I bought them back when they opened in March.
Very smart, very smart. Well, that means we're gonna have to you're gonna have your phone with you, right? You're gonna be our World Cup correspondent. We're gonna get you back on the pod when the World Cup's game are happening, and you're gonna be our man on the ground over there. That's so cool. You're gonna be in stadium. That is so cool. Did you buy it for the FIFA lottery and then you just got it all done early?
Yep, I bought it. So the original lottery, I just bought I bought tickets to. I didn't know who was playing. I just bought them to match 11.
Right.
So, and then there's different like the tickets you were allotted, you can go resell them. And if there's tickets available, you can buy those in the resale platform. So there were some USA Wales tickets available, and I snagged those. So I'm still on the lookout. Still on the lookout for USA England, but those are hard to come by, and USA Iran are difficult to come by because Iran's just right across the Persian Gulf.
They're gonna have a lot of fans there. Yeah, but it seems to me I forgot the numbers were, but it was almost like if you pitched in to get the US supporters tickets, because the way it works, you can follow the team. I think only 1 in 10 fans got tickets or something.
Yeah.
Something pretty crazy like that. Like it's almost like I would love to go follow the USA, but it's like it's a lottery to win it. So it's cool you'll be there. It's cool you got a USA Wales ticket. Hopefully when it gets closer, you'll be able to get some resales and get in those stadiums. Maybe you could pull a fast one and get a bunch of fans and bum rush the stadium and sneak in. I don't know if you remember those images from Brazil when they had all those guys running the media center. They just had to get detained because they couldn't get in the stadium. No, that's right. But you also be there. And you know what I think is really cool about the Qatar World Cup? There's plenty I don't think it's really cool about the Qatar World Cup, obviously, with the human rights stuff aside and whatnot. But I love the fact that the World Cup is in such a tiny country. So you could just stay in your same hotel or villa, wherever you went the whole time, and see any game. The furthest game is going to be an hour away or an hour and a half away. So
it's basically in just one city.
Yeah, and I think that is really cool. Versus the 2026 World Cup here. Imagine if I want to watch the USA, they're going to be in New York, LA, Seattle, or something. It's like, how am I going to pull that off? For Miami, it's like, oh, God, I'm flying all over the country, and it'll be interesting to see how it works. It's going to be a total polar opposite from a tiny place to literally an entire giant continent's worth of games. So, but that is so cool you're going, man. Okay, so you're in the stadium. Zach Stefan's in goal. Let's see. Who's number 9? Who's up top?
Jesus Ferreira.
Who's the right winger?
Brendan Aronson.
Brendan Aronson over Timo Weah, you think? Over Gio Reyna?
I think so.
Okay. I know that's a good bet. If Brendan Aronson keeps up his numbers, he's been in England, then yeah, it'd be stupid not to start, in my opinion. Despite how great Timo Weah has been for us when he puts on national team jersey.
I mean, I think Tim Weah would be a fantastic option to bring in about the 65th minute mark and let him run at defenders.
Right. And be just a warrior. Or the opposite. Timo Weah could do 60 minutes and Brendan Aronson come for 30 minutes.
True.
Either or, I'm fine. And Gio Reyna, in my opinion, is the most talented player we have. He has the largest ceiling. I would love to see him get on the field with injuries and stuff. We might have to wait for him to be a key figure for the next campaign. We'll see. Gio Reyna's run in Azteca, Diego Maradona style run running through all those Mexican players will live with me forever. The dude's got talent. What are the other unknowns? I'm trying to think.
Center back.
I was going to say center back pairing. Who's your center back pairing? Is it your boy? Is it Walker?
Walker is I think he starts one of the spots, and I'm gonna say I think Aaron Long's probably got it.
Really? In my mind right now, it's Walker, Zimmerman, and Chris Richards. However, Chris Richards, we have to see what kind of minutes he's getting in England. We have to see kind of what's going on with him over at Crystal Palace.
He's gonna have to play at Crystal Palace. I think if he sits the bench, I think he'll be hard pressed to make the not make the roster, but to start.
Absolutely. No, you're right. I think it's a good analysis. And then, as far as getting on the plane, do you think a guy like Georgi Mihailovic gets a shout out? Do you think he'll showcase himself enough in September to maybe get a spot on the plane?
I think it'll be telling what Berhalter does in the September window. I think if he brings Georgi Mihailovic to camp and he gets some run in the games, I think he's got a good chance. I would have said I think Mihailovic would have been on the plane if he wouldn't have gotten injured earlier in the summer.
Yeah, he was injured at a terrible, terrible time.
Yeah,
like his time to shine was happening. He got injured that week. I think he had to drop out of camp. Was he already at camp or something?
Yes, he was. I think it was the game before they went off to the June camp.
Yeah. But also unlucky for him, that's probably our deepest position is midfield. We have MMA, and on the bench we got Luca De La Torre, Gianluca Buzio, Kellen Acosta. Our midfield depth is pretty solid right now.
Yeah, I think Adams and Musa and McKinney will probably start along with Pulisic. I
agree. I think we got MMA midfield. We got Pulisic on the left, Jesus Ferreira the 9, and you got Brendan Aronson on the right wing. You got Aaron Long, Zimmerman, Zach Steffen, and then do you got Sergio Dest on the right, or do you got Yedlin on the right? Or your boy Shaq Moore, maybe. Maybe he makes the play. I don't know.
I think Shaq Moore has a chance to make the plane, but I think Sergio Dest will start at right back, and then Jedi Robinson at left back.
I think that's essentially my lineup. In my heart, I think Matt Turner is going to get the goal spot. I think it'll be Chris Richards. I think he'll get some minutes at Crystal Palace. I think he'll get that spot in there. And you're right. The Timo Weah thing is interesting because they're both doing so well, but Brendan Aronson's just lighting up a storm. It's got to be Brendan Aronson, right?
I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with either one because, like you said, if you bring on Aronson at the 65th minute, I mean he's going to wear you down.
Yeah. And maybe he comes better off as a burst that way. And I do believe Jesus Ferreira is definitely getting the shout. But if Brandon Vasquez is still going on a tear, and if he's really impresses in September, then it might be Brandon Vasquez because we need a number 9 to score it. Maybe it's Vasquez.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brandon Vasquez very may, force his way onto the plane. It doesn't look like
his way on, push them out of the way. It's like, get me on that plane. Yeah,
it doesn't look like Pepe's. Getting much playing time at Augsburg.
No.
I'm not sure how much trust, Berhalter has in a guy like Haji Wright.
Or Pfeiffer. That's the big thing, because Pfeiffer is scoring and playing. But for whatever reason, when he puts on the national team jersey, he just never fit. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know. If Pfeiffer can, where's he at? Is he at Union Berlin?
He's at Union Berlin right now, and he scored on the debut. He scored at the Cup. He's doing well. He's playing. He's scoring.
I think if Pfeiffer can bang in some goals in the Bundesliga, he may very well be on the plane as well.
I think he will be, but it depends on how many minutes he's going to get. Like, I like him coming off the bench because he's a finisher. He's a scrappy finisher in the box. We have no one like that. So PFOC's the guy. And PFOC hasn't always been a failure. Oh, remember Honduras last summer. He came off the bench. He scored that last minute header, got us to the final. The great USA-Mexico game. PFOC isn't a total loss. Over this past year, it's been a little tricky for him. But we also have 26 roster slots, not 23, and he should at least get 26. I think he's scoring high-level goals in a high-level league for a big team, relatively big team. Bring him on. I say it, brother. All right, man. Do you have any last thoughts or anything on your Schnitzel Boys experience? I held you longer than I wanted to. I was just having such a good time talking to you, man.
It's all good. I'm just say thanks for having me, and if you're ever in Nashville, give me a shout, and maybe we can meet up sometime. Maybe.
I'd love to. I'll put it on the list. I want to come by to Nashville. Say if you're ever in LA, come by. We'll go to a Galaxy game or an LAFC game or an Angel City FC game or an Orange County Blue Stars game. We have all sorts of options. We can take a drive down and go see Club Tijuana game in Mexico. Yep. That's sort of on my list. Maybe go up to see San Jose, Sacramento Republic. The world is my oyster out here on the West Coast. So you go all sorts of games, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, if you're ever in town, look me up, brother. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your experiences with us. And we'll see you. We'll see you again. This is not your last appearance on the Schnitzel Boys, my friend.
All right.
We'll see you for some World Cup analysis. Peace.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks.
See ya. All right. That was my boy Ryan Baker coming on with some perspective of soccer in the South and Nashville, as we're way too New York biased here. Not too New York biased. There's just a clear New York bias. I just want to offer another perspective. I did go to Angel City FC game over the weekend. I had a great time. It was a thing. It was a beautiful stadium. Angel City won 1-0 off a goal in the second half. And they're still a little bit outside the playoffs, but I think it's looking good, like they're going to make a late run for the playoffs. But that concludes our American section. I just want to touch on a little Bundesliga before we say goodbye. Bundesliga was a lovely weekend. I caught a decent amount of games. Let's see. What games did I see? I saw Freiburg-Dortmund. So Freiburg was in control of the game. They were leading 1-0. Dortmund was scrapping and scrambling. And then a goalkeeper fumble equalized the game 1-1, and Dortmund was able to get 2 goals there towards the end to win it 3-1, which proves to you that a game lasts 90 minutes. So good on you, Dortmund, for getting the 3 points. But again, that's unconvincing. Hoffenheim-Bochum, really fun game, really exciting. Love Bjorn's thoughts on this. Hoffenheim came the winners with 3-2, but 2 great goals from VfL Bochum, and they're definitely getting in there and showing that they're not pushovers. Werder Bremen and Stuttgart, Pellegrino Materazzo's boys, are on 2-2. A lot of ties this weekend. RB Leipzig and Cologne 2-2. RB Leipzig, that's 2 games, 2 ties for them, as well as a red card. Timo Werner scoring on his return. So Timo Werner going right back into his old position there. Love to see it. But RB Leipzig, they're 4 points behind Dortmund and Bayern already, only 2 games into the season, so they need to pick it up. Hertha and Frankfurt 1-1. You'd think Frankfurt would get more out of that game. Mainz Union Berlin 0-0. No goal for PFOC this time. Schalke Gladbach 2-2. Gladbach and Schalke, 2 unknown commodities this year. Interesting to see how that progresses, if they'll have a decent season. It's looking like they're both going to be okay. Bayern dominant 2-0 over Wolfsburg. The Bayern machine keeps running. And the game I saw, the big fun game I saw over the week was Augsburg-Leverkusen. Leverkusen kind of having a poopy start to their year. They were eliminated from a small club in the Cup. They lost last week to Bayern Munich, which you do. But then they lost at home to Augsburg. Ricardo Pepi coming off the bench, 4 minutes, some trash minutes, not much from Pepi. But Augsburg played, I think, 4 or 5. They played at least 5 forwards in this game. And they were able to get a good, confident 2-1 win over Leverkusen. Good on you, Augsburg. Keep on trucking. And Ricardo Pepi, keep working. Earn your form. Get back on that field. Start scoring some goals. So that's been the Bundesliga roundup. No other major news stories I do want to talk about. And I think I should end it here. We talked MLS. We talked to this men's national team. The last third of the season will be very exciting in MLS. The Bundesliga season is picking up, and teams they're already back to their old habits. Dortmund, you got 6 points, but they haven't been super convincing. Bayern, you got 6 points, and it's been very convincing. Good on you, Bayern. The other thing is, we have a couple things that happened in England this weekend. Very exciting. Thomas Tuchel ripping Antonio Conte's hand, being a little drama queen that he is. Loving that kind of passion. Pulisic coming off the bench. Hopefully he'll keep working, earn his spot. Want to see a little more from Pulisic. Leeds United, 2-2. My old team, Jesse Marsh, the coach of my old team. The amount of 2-0 leads that we blew under Marsh was mind-boggling. They play high-energy, high-press soccer, and they can really last for 80 minutes. So here we are in England with the oppressive heat during their heat wave, and he plays this high-press, high-energy soccer. But he's light on the subs. It's a little surprising. You think he'd sub a little more aggressively. He did not. No Patrick Bamford, just like last year. That's a big problem because without Bamford, where are you going to get your goals? And you're going to get your goals from Rodrigo. He scored 2 great goals, up to nothing. And then Southampton, under other former Red Bulls coach Ralf Hasenhüttl, getting 2 goals there towards the end. And apparently, rumors are that Ralf Hasenhüttl has lost the crowd, and I think he was lost the locker room and the crowd. Maybe he might be on his way out, but he salvaged a point there. Good on them. Good on Southampton, and good on Leeds. 4 points out of 2 games. It's looking good. Leeds, keep picking up those points. Okay, that is the end of the podcast. And like tech stuff, I don't have my tech stuff because my tech friend is gone today, and I should have prepared a little bit more. I did not. So all I can say is tschüss. Bis nächste Woche. Tell your friends, like and subscribe. Email us, get in the chat. Share your stories. Get involved. We are the Schnitzel Boys. Tschüss. Auf Wiedersehen.